Hi guys, my name is Dami and today we're going to be making chili in buns. So the first thing we have to do is preheat the oven to the 375 degrees as for on the Pillsbury container, and then I'm going to show you how to do that. So here's the oven, and the first thing that you do is make sure that there's nothing inside the oven, and then there are preheat buttons. So if you press on the 375, you can click start, but if you don't have that, you can click bake and increase to 375 and click start, and then your oven is preheating. It's important to preheat the oven first to make sure it gets the temperature you need while you do everything else. And then we're going to open our croissant roll, and then we're going to break it apart following the lines. So if we start on this side, we can unravel it. If you pull along the dotted lines, you can make the croissants into different triangles, and then the next thing we're going to do is shape them to make buns. And then we're going to roll them into a ball, and we're going to roll each of the triangles into a ball to make our buns. So we're going to keep rolling. Once all the dough is rolled into balls, put them on a baking pan with a cookie sheet while the oven preheats. Make sure to give them enough space to avoid them running into each other. Okay, next up we're going to make our we're going to start making our chili. So the first thing we have to do is make sure our hands are washed, make sure our surface is clean. We have a chopping board and a knife, and then we want to make sure all our ingredients are washed and ready. So we have some peppers, we have onions, we have garlic heads, we have some ground beef. We also have spices, diced tomatoes, and 2 types of beans. So the first thing we're going to do is mince our garlic. So as you can see, garlic comes in heads like this. First, we can peel one of the cloves out, and we're going to peel the clove. So the clove has little bits which you can peel off, and when you peel them off, you get the white on the inside. So we can just peel off our clove, and then we can wash it to make sure there's nothing on it. And we're going to peel off 2 cloves. Okay, now that our cloves are peeled, we're going to try to push down on the clove to try to flatten it a bit, and then we can mince it. Make sure you watch your fingers while you do this. Now we can move our garlic off to the side or put it in a separate bowl, and next up we're going to use our onion. We're just going to use about half of the onion. So you can cut off the edges first, the top and the bottom, and then you can peel the onion just like you peeled your garlic. So if you take the colored part of your onion, you can just peel it off. So after the onion's cut, you can cut it in half again, and then we can peel the top layer off the onion. It should come off pretty easily. And then we're going to chop a quarter of the onion to go with our meat. And yes, onions do make you cry. And then we can move them over to the side, and then we're going to grab a pot. Before we cook our ground beef, we're going to put our buns in the oven. So you're going to use oven mitts to grab the pan and put it in the oven. And then you'll set a timer for 10 minutes because it should be done in 10 to 12 minutes. So we're going to check it in 10 minutes and then again in 12 minutes. So don't forget to set your timers. Okay, so now we're going to cook our beef. The first thing we're going to do is turn our stove on to low to medium heat. And then we're going to add very little olive oil to the pan. And after that, we'll add our garlic and onions that we already chopped up. And then you can just let those cook in there for a little bit. And we're always going to be mixing to make sure it doesn't burn. And then we'll add the ground beef into the pan. And we'll chop up the ground beef. And we'll continue mixing the ground beef while it's on the stove to make sure it doesn't burn and to make sure that the brown part, when it starts to cook, comes up to the top. And now, as you can see, the bottom of the meat is starting to get brown, so we're going to keep mixing and lifting the brown part up. Now this is what our meat should look like when it's cooked. It should be a brown color. And then we're going to drain the fat. So once your beef is cooked, make sure to turn the stove off, and then we're going to move all of our beef over to one side so we can get all the fat onto one side, and then we're going to drain all the fat into a bowl. So when your beef moves over, you can move it back and make sure to drain all the fat out of the bowl. Okay, so now we're going to add our spices. So we're going to add 1 teaspoon of salt, and then we're going to add 2.5 tablespoons of chili powder. So you can measure your chili powder. So this is 1 tablespoon of chili powder, and we're going to add 2.5 tablespoons. We're also going to add 1/2 teaspoon of oregano. And now the 10-minute timer for our buns has gone off. So we're going to open our oven, check on the buns, and if they're ready, light brown, you're going to bring them out wearing oven mitts. Make sure you have oven mitts on, and then you can sit them on the counter or on the stove to cool. And make sure to turn your oven off. Our buns should look golden brown when they're all done. Then we're going to add 1/2 teaspoon of basil. And then we're going to add 1/2 teaspoon of basil. And then make sure to mix everything into the meat. Now we need to prepare the rest of the ingredients for our chili. Start by chopping up 1 garlic clove and onions. Next, we're going to use the rest of the onion that we had. We're going to chop it up. Make sure to watch your fingers again. Make sure you remember to peel the top layer off of the second half of the onion before you cut it up. Now we're going to add our chopped up onions and garlic into a bowl. And if you drop any, make sure you pick them up. Next, we'll chop up our peppers. So first, we're going to cut the pepper in half so we can take out the core, and we can pick out the seeds and the core and put them away to put them in the trash later. Now we can chop up our peppers. I personally like to cut them into long, nice slices and then chop them after. Now with the red pepper, we do exactly like we did with the orange, and we can just cut it down the middle. So cut it in half, and we want to peel out all these white parts and the top. And we use 2 different types of peppers, 2 different colors of peppers, just to add some color. And now we can slice these ones again. Next up, we're going to use a can opener to open our cans of beans. So here we have some black beans, red kidney beans, just 2 different types, and then diced tomatoes. And we're going to use our can opener. If you don't know how to use a can opener, you open it up, you put the 2 sides of these on either edge, and then we close it and you twist. And then you just twist and open all your cans. Now we take a strainer and pour the beans in and rinse it under the tap, and you can put the strainer in a bowl to collect the water. Now we'll let our beans sit and drain while we add the rest of our veggies and our tomatoes to the pot. Okay, now it's time to add all of our veggies, our tomatoes, and water to the pot. So we're going to turn our stove back on low to medium heat. And then we're going to add the tomatoes. So your can of diced tomatoes. And then we're going to add 1 cup of water. I have a liquid measuring cup here, but if you don't have one, that's okay. And make sure to stir when you add these. And then we're going to add all of our veggies, which were in the bowl. And we'll add our drained beans into the pot as well. Now we'll let this sit and simmer for 20 to 25 minutes. So make sure you set a timer once again, and make sure you stir well before you leave it. Make sure to check about every 5 to 10 minutes to make sure that to stir your pot. And if you're a vegetarian, you could always take out the meat and add corn or beans or whatever you like to your chili. Okay, after the 25-minute timer goes off and your chili has boiled, it's ready to eat, and you can serve it with your buns.